It's, so basically, I guess the best way I like to think about it is I just interview people that I find interesting, you know? So
Nice.
whether that's like
Dig
a
it.
pro gamer or if it's somebody who works in fitness or somebody who works in, anything, it doesn't matter. As long as I think they're interesting and they're unique in the industry, then I'll interview them.
Well, I'm honored you think I'm interesting.
Yeah, far more interesting than me. But
Relative, all relative.
so we're recording now. So hey, welcome to Auto Chat. I'm sitting here with Jake Boly. Let's just jump right into it. Jake, you work in the fitness industry in a sense, and you know, you have a lot of qualifications, thank God. So, because we've seen a lot of people in the industry who have no qualifications, but Jake's the founder of That Fit Friend. He's the co-founder of Physique Lab. So, he works with 10,000 as an athlete and whatnot. So he's been around, he's done that, and we're honored to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm super grateful to be chatting and catching up, and I'm honored that you think I'm interesting enough to have on the podcast in the first place. But yeah, a little bit of background as you pretty much nailed it. I've been coaching for nearly a decade now. I have my education, formal educations in exercise science and sports science with my bachelor's and master's in those. And yeah, man, like my whole spiel when it comes to like work and whatnot was doing the full-time training route and then kind of doing editorial writing on the side. And then basically got like 4 or 5 years into that, got a little bit burnt out from training. The hours are really rough and I love working with people, but when you're like wanting to write as well and focus on internet stuff, it can kind of just wear on you from all fronts, like the physical part of training, but then also the mental front of trying to do that content as well outside of that. So then later on, I shifted gears, took a more editorial focused job, put training into like more like the side project back burner. And yeah, ever since I have been kind of full time quote unquote writer, we'll say. I don't call myself a professional novelist by any means, but I can find my way around a research paper and put together an article if need be. And yeah, and I still train folks on the side, and that is through Physique Lab and now TF2 Strength, which is kind of my own personal spin-off platform of that Fit Friend, which I kind of want to blend all these elements of training gear and training and kind of like the whole premise of that Fit Friend is just building a platform that actually has product reviews where I'm actually training and using the product. I think way too often we look at some of these other websites and stuff and YouTube channels and whatnot, and the people talk about the product, but like it's like, okay, but like, are you actually using it? Like, come on now.
Right. Especially for its intended purpose. And that's why,
Yeah.
I remember I was talking to Jake not that long ago, a couple days ago, about the Nike Free Metcon. And I was like, hey man, do you know anything about these shoes? Like, I don't know if I want to buy these yet. And he told me, check out your video. So I did. And your video was like really good because you're like actually using the shoe and you're using it for its intended purpose, detailing the pros and cons. And that's another thing is like I think people sometimes are too afraid to like list cons out for products because they don't want to be like blacklisted or they don't want people to think they're shill. But it's like it's okay. Not everything is perfect. Like there's plenty of products from companies that we like that maybe aren't our favorite of their products. uh, I've been working in retail for almost 8 years now or something, and I've bounced around with different products, and I'll be honest with customers all the time. They'll ask me, "Oh, how is this training shoe?" And I'll be like, honestly, it's not that good. Like it's not worth your money. But this one is. I've actually used this one. I'm wearing it right now. Like, I'm not just wearing it to tell you. You know, so I think that's very important. Honesty in the industry. Like I said, we
100%.
have a lot of people.
100%. And that's, I think, one of the biggest things too, where it's like, that fit friend, like for example, like every product review has affiliate links, and that's just the nature of the game. When you're doing a review site or anything with reviews, generally you're going to have some affiliate link connected to that. That does not mean formal relationship with the company though. And that's where I
Yeah.
think it gets really interesting because it's like helping people understand that like there's like two types, right? There's like black hat and white hat. There's
Hmm.
kind of like the white hat where it's like this more like objective thing where it's like yeah, like I will make money from this product if you buy it, but at the same time, like if you're using it for this, it's going to be a terrible fucking product. I have no problem telling you that. So
Yeah.
that's, I think, another thing that is really big that is lacking in a lot of ways, because it's funny, like when you look at like my current gripe and my current like jaded outlook is like, for example, like when you look at like best CrossFit shoe articles, right? You'll see
Hmm.
all these companies list these products, and it's like if you actually are in the game knowing like what to do, it's like the On Cloud X shoe. Don't hate it. It's a decent cross training shoe for what it's intended to do, but it's a
Hmm.
terrible fucking CrossFit shoe. And so
Oh
it's
yeah.
like seeing people like rank these highly just because of the affiliate payouts, that's where it's like, okay, we're getting a little bit more black hat. It's a little bit more shady. You're not really like, it's not technically black hat per like the definition of what it actually is, but in the context of like, you are pushing this onto somebody who may not have a fucking clue what to do. They're looking at you for an expert advice, and you're telling them this, and then they're going to get this, sink their money into it, and then a month later they're going to be like, this isn't that great. And then they're going to try
Yeah.
something that actually works, and then it's like, cool, you wasted their time and money. Sick. Like that is
Yeah.
so counterproductive for everybody.
Not to mention, like OnCloud is not a cheap shoe. Like a
No.
lot of their shoes are very expensive, and so that's what I think is very interesting is people do that. I mean, it's the same thing with like no offense, but it's the same thing with like Project Rock. People they clown over it. It's so big. And this is no disrespect, to Project Rock, but it's not a great CrossFit shoe. It's just not. Like
Yeah.
it's a good training shoe. It's fine, but
Yeah.
it's not really a CrossFit shoe. Like you're not going to see anybody going to the CrossFit games wearing those. Like
Exactly. Well,
it's a gimmick
you make
shoe.
you make a really great point, and I think what's important and what's lacking right now, truthfully,
Hmm.
is coherent, consistent definitions of what shoes are. So, for example, like let's look at like the On Cloud X, like a Reebok Nano 10, the Project Rock, and then like a Under Armour Hover Rise, right? So those
Yep.
are all they're all technically cross training shoes. They're all shoes intended for training through through multiple disciplines. However, that does not mean they're all CrossFit shoes. And I know
Yep.
like to the unknowing ear that might sound confusing, but once you like start to recognize that like different shoes will have different construction characteristics to assert themselves as being a better player for certain activities, that's when it's like, okay, like I get this now. Like just because it's a cross training shoe doesn't mean it's going to be a great shoe for tackling like things like rope climbs, burpees, heavy lifting, etc.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, something that also needs to be like demystified. And it's like tough when you see these sites with riders who aren't actually in strength sports writing about these products, or just ghost riders in general, where it's just fucking shitty. But it's funny
Oh yeah.
because the On Cloud X being as expensive as it is, why do we think it's prioritized on all of these sites lists? It's because their affiliate payout's like 15%. You buy a $150 shoe, that person's getting back like 10 to 15 bucks on that purchase, versus like a normal shoe is anywhere from like 7 to 10%. So it's like if you bought a Reebok Nano X, for example, through a link on my YouTube video, it's maybe like $5 or $6, but the On company pays really well because their products are also
Hmm.
very expensive. So it's like
Hmm.
not a coincidence that all of a sudden On Cloud X is like this top cross training shoe on all these sites.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's another
Oh
thing that
yeah.
blurs the fucking line.
Oh, for sure, dude. And that's the thing. Like, in my industry, I have customers come in, wealthier customers will come in, and they're all decked out in the gear, and they're all decked out in on cloud, and that's great and all, but like, you're not really buying it because you're gonna use it for its intended purpose. You're buying it because it's the new fad right now, and then there's gonna be another one, and then there's gonna be another one, and that's just how it goes. It was the Nike Pegasus, and now it's the On Cloud, and then it's gonna be another shoe, and that's fine. I just think it's interesting that people, they'll use shoes for the wrong intended purpose, because for me, all my shoes have a purpose in mind. I don't buy, no offense, I don't buy Jordans or anything because it doesn't suit a purpose for me. Um, and I think people need to remember that shoes were made to have a set use in your life. And so for me, if I'm going to spend that kind of money, I got to make sure what I'm buying is correct. And so, like, you and a couple other people actually have informative, good reviews, longer reviews, which means you actually put in the time. And you can see that when you show the shoes, you've actually put them to work because they don't look as nice as they were when they got there. And that's good because that means that you actually tested the damn shoe. The same thing with your gear, you test the hell out of the gear. So, tell me about how you came around to like establishing that fit friend and whatnot, and how it became with TF2 and whatnot.
Yeah, for sure. So I used to work at a company called Barbin for 4 years. I was their
Hmm.
fitness editor. I was one of their first employees. And there I did a
You
lot of
shorter
review
hair.
content. Yeah, I had very shorter hair. It's always funny when people find my channel, they're like, whoa, you're that dude with
What the
the no
hell?
beard and no hair. Now you have hair and no a beard. And like it's just so funny. But basically, yeah, man, I was there for a while, ended up splitting off to do my own thing. And it took me a little bit to realize exactly like what I realized I really love doing, to be quite honest. Because when I was at the end of that role in my life, I was very anxious all the time and I couldn't figure out exactly why. So when I wanted to do my own thing, I started Physique Lab with my co-founder Ojin Loki. He runs the big Instagram page Physique, super knowledgeable dude, one of my best friends. And we started this project, and like we got like probably like 5 to 6 months into that, and we both were like, this is cool, but like it's not really what we want to do. He wants to be
Hmm.
much more like writing books on the educational side, and I was like, well, I kind of like want to build a site and create a bunch of content that I really enjoy, and also
Hmm.
like integrate a YouTube channel into that, which I never felt like I really could with Physique Lab. Equally, same from like his point of view, he never felt like he could really assert like his whole heavy hand because it's a partnership, right? There's a happy balance, and like how I saw growing the site, he did not see the same way. So I was like, okay, like let's go ahead and just put this on the back burners and each do our own thing. So we both kind of split off, did our own thing. And eventually, like truthfully, like the big long-term plan with TF2 that fit friend would be to eventually one, create my own shoe once there's enough like traffic and know of the brand itself, or collaborate with like a Reebok or one of these really big brands to like make a shoe that I think is kind of like a best of all worlds like blend of all the things that I see in the shoes I like to use that are lacking, or that shoes
Hmm.
that need like basically like how could I create my own spin on a performance focused shoe. So that's the kind of the long-term goal with that fit friend. But that all being said, when I was at Barbin, I was doing a lot of shoe content. And so when I left, I was like, you know what? Like I don't think I realized like how much I really love doing this. And even then I had like 2 years into the role at Barbin, like I had an idea of creating a shoe line. My problem is his shoes are fucking expensive.
Oh
So
yeah.
I was like, how can I like scratch that itch of wanting to create content that I love and also like build videos, write articles because I love that form of creativity and like that creative outlet. And also just do it for myself because for so long I was creating content for somebody else. So I was eventually like, okay, I'm going to start a site that basically hosts reviews of products that I actually like to use that I think are needed in this industry. And it's like there's some other great shoe reviewers out there, like Joel from As Many Reviews as Possible is awesome.
Hmm. Hmm.
I believe Coop from Garage Gym Reviews, he's hopping into shoes at the moment, so I'm curious to see what's going to happen there.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I feel like there's not a lot of great speaking like talking heads on these products because like I don't think a lot of people use them correctly or push them to the actual limits. It's like the person who's talking about stability in a shoe and deadlifting like 185 pounds. Like no offense to deadlift, like it's a great deadlift, but like what is that going to tell somebody who's pulling like 400? Like really?
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
um, so the whole idea was basically to just honestly build out content that I really love that I think the industry is missing and put my own personal spin on it and eventually hopefully Reebok and Nike are listening to eventually like
Yeah.
dive in and like collaborate with them on building out something really cool once like the brand is at least big enough to have some more swinging power.
Absolutely. So you mentioned you want to make a shoe that tailors to a lot of different things that you like that you think are lacking right now in the industry. So what do you think is lacking right now?
So so there's two different things. Well, actually there's a
Hmm.
few different things. But primarily I would love to see a weightlifting shoe with a
Mm.
wider toe box. Because right now we have weightlifting shoes that like hey, say they have wider toe boxes, but like they really don't. And I think
Hmm.
when it comes to really delivering a shoe with a wider toe box that really fits the anatomical build of a foot, they're missing the mark a little bit. So I think a weightlifting shoe with a toe box that's a bit more anatomically focused would be really cool. And also when it comes to weightlifting shoes too, I think there's a gap right now between women's and men's shoes
Hmm.
because I don't think in a lot of time, like because I think weightlifting shoes for a lot of companies like an afterthought. It's kind of like it's just a thing that they do on the side. It's like why like
Hmm.
Reebok only has like one model, why Nike only comes out with one model like every other 3 years.
Hmm.
I think the last construction could probably be made a little bit better in regard to like the anatomical differences between a man and woman's foot and tailoring a shoe towards those and being a bit more specific in nature. So it's like if a woman's looking for a weightlifting shoe, actually having a shoe that has a last and a mold construction tailored to her anatomical differences. I think that would be really cool. And then in regard to cross training shoes, it's like it's an absolute crapshoot because if we watch the evolution of shoes every single year, it's like you have like the Reeboks and the Nikes. They're trying. I feel like they're really desperately trying to understand the niche asks of strength sport athletes. But even
Yeah,
then, like I think 2021 was probably one of the worst years for cross training shoes when it comes to like the big brands producing. Like the Nano X1 is not a good model for CrossFit, truthfully. Like it's okay, it works. But if you look at prior nanos, like there's a reason people are like, yeah, my favorite was like the 7. My favorite was like whatever model prior to that. It's
oh yeah,
because not the 7. The 7 was actually not good. I believe it's the 6 and like the 2 or 3 that are really popular. But
yeah.
that being said, like the Nano X1, I think missed the mark really big, and it's because obviously like the folding of like the Reebok / CrossFit relationship, I'm sure influenced that, and then them
That was
saying
a
like,
very interesting situation.
yeah. And so I think that along with like them seeing this big push towards like more like friendly functional fitness, not so diehard CrossFit, influence that shoe. And then when it's like when you look at the Reebok Nano 7, I mean not the Reebok, the Nike Metcon 7, um,
Hmm.
that shoe is just really interesting too. Like I thought they had a great thing going with the 4, changed it to the 5. Okay, the 5 was a pretty good shoe. Okay, 6, I get behind that. 6 is a pretty good shoe. And it's like the 7 that's like, all right, it seems like you guys are just trying way too hard at this point. Like there are
Hmm.
so many tech features in this shoe that I don't think are necessarily needed, even though
Oh
it is
yeah.
designed for CrossFit. Like, I don't know. Like, I would take my 6s over the 7 any freaking day, and I'll take my
Hmm.
4s over all those models any day. Um,
Yeah.
but that all being said, having a shoe that's a bit more consistent in nature with the actual training side of things and not trying to constantly revolutionize the game every single year with big grandiose tech features. Like a shoe needs to obviously grow and get better,
Hmm.
but I think with how the big companies are conceptualizing these topics, I don't think they are doing the best job at delivering a consistent shoe that isn't like throwing people through a loop every year. Because like this fucking Metcon 7 and 6, like it caused like a huge uproar. Like this is different. I don't like it. I know like some
Yeah.
people are like, I hate it. I love it. Like I don't feel like it should necessarily be like that. It's a shoe that's designed to perform well. Like, why are we having such a discrepancy here? And it's because, oh, every year they're coming out with all these big grandiose changes generally. Well, it's technically every other year. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and it's the same thing with like it's actually the same thing with Project Rock because I was there. I was with Under Armour from the beginning of Project Rock. And so I remember when it was first a running shoe with the freaking bowl on it, and then they decided, okay, we're gonna make it into a lifting shoe. Okay, now we're gonna make it into a cross trainer. Okay, now we're gonna make it into like an LA Fitness type shoe. No disrespect to people who go to LA Fitness. I'm just saying that's where the shoe's really gonna shine. It's.
Yeah.
But the shoe has gone through so many weird iterations to the point where you can't even keep up with it because it's different every year. And I don't think that's a good thing. I think you should find your niche and then you should really specialize in that. Like, I agree with you. The Metcon 6, I thought everybody kind of liked it. Everybody kind of just came along to it and they were like, all right, this is good. And then the Metcon 7 is like completely different. You're like, whoa, 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 what happened? And I've been hearing a lot of things about the Metcon 7, not so great things. I've been hearing things about pieces, breaking off or, peeling
Yep.
off and stuff. I just watched your comparison video between the 6 and the 7 like 2 days ago. I just watched it. And so, you know, it's kind of funny how you're like, you go through everything, positives and cons and all that. And then at the end of the video, you're like, yeah, but, the 6, you can't really go wrong with the 6, and you're not
Yeah.
wrong. Why would I spend all that money on the 7 when the 6 is fine? The 6 is perfectly fine. Like the 7's not so radically so much better that you have
Yeah.
to get it.
And on top of that, dude, like the 6, you could find them marked down now because the newer models. That's the best. My favorite is when there's a really great year for a shoe and they bring out a
Hmm.
new shoe and it sucks and it knocks the price down to the old better shoe and you're
Oh
like,
yeah.
fuck yeah. But
Yeah.
but equally, it's like it's funny when we talk about this and like the multiple iterations and faces we'll see with different shoes. I compare it to like somebody like finding themselves, right? It's like you're trying out all these different personalities and you don't know which to go with. But I feel like far too often companies don't actually listen to I think, some of the, like the stronger voices of what the shoe should be in regard to the consumer. So now we have a
Hmm.
shoe that's out there and it's like, meh, this sucks. Like, yeah, I have to, I literally, you know, it's funny you said that. Before the end of the weekend, I have it on my to-do list to go back and update my Metcon 7 article, because I had a part of the heel on the outsole start to break off already, which is like, cool,
Wow.
sick. Like, it's kind of
Jeez.
frustrating. It's like you can see that. I guess that the exposed midsole and stuff would be an issue. So it's just like, well, there we go. There's the fucking issue. Um,
Yep.
and yeah, man, it's like, I don't know. I think companies far too often think that they have to be innovative, when in reality, it's like, no, just find what really works for you and then subtly improve from there. It's like with anything, like with training in the world of coaching. It's like, find what works for an athlete and a lifter, and then just do subtle A/B testing to move the needle, but keep them on that steady baseline of growth.
Hmm.
That's kind of like how I like to think about it, which is like just a total meathead fucking way of looking at shoes.
But it's good because like everybody has their thing, you know. It's like my girlfriend collects fucking Disney pins and shit, you know. And I'm like, she's like, wow, look how many I have now. Like all these unique guns. I'm like, oh, that's cool, you know. But it's like everybody has their thing, you know. Like so for you or I, it's like a shoe, like a training shoe, and then you know finding the right one feels really really good, but you have to wade through this like massive river of shit, you know. So I totally get that, you know. And I think it's funny that you mentioned that's the problem that you had, because that's the thing I've been hearing about the most about that shoe. But
Yeah, the exposed midsole, dude, not good. I don't like that for cross training or CrossFit at all. It doesn't make
yeah,
any sense
it's
to me.
it's really awful. And then the Nano X1 I just tested out like 2 weeks ago, and I agree with you completely. Like it didn't feel good at all. Like I feel like a 10 would be fine for me to like walk around and do some regular shit, but like yeah, dude, there's no way I could ever do any serious stuff in that. No way.
But it's funny that it's hard because you got to walk the line too. Like, I do like the
Yeah,
Nano X1 Adventure. That is, I do like that
I've heard
model.
good things about that one.
I've used that model for some like trail runs here and there more casually, and it's been a
Yeah.
pretty good model across the board. And it's funny too because like I have deadlifted like over 500 in the Nano X1, and it works for it, but like to your point, it's just not the best. And you know it's
Hmm.
funny, like one of my favorite shoes right now, and this is not even like me trying to plug it or like me having some relationship with them, is the Strike Movement models. Like, so many
Hmm.
of their shoes are freaking awesome. And I'm really hoping, as we head into 2022 and get into like 2023, et cetera, and strength sports continue to evolve, I really hope some of these smaller companies start getting more recognition,
For sure.
because their model, the Hayes Trainer, it's like it's what I would consider like, I think, a gold standard training shoe. Like, it's very simplistic in nature, but it's
Hmm.
like not that. It's simplistic in the sense of like, oh, that looks like a simple shoe, but there's so many like subtle details that make it great, which I think great training shoes are like, that's what it is, right? It's like, at face value, it's like a great training plan. If I write you a great training plan, it's going to hopefully be simplistic to you to understand and utilize, but there's so much more layers below it that like you don't
Hmm.
necessarily need to know or understand, but just know that it's working well and like intended to do what it's doing.
Right.
So that's like kind of where my head's at these days, where it's like, I almost would rather something that's not as flashy, because flash doesn't always get the job done.
Hmm. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I've heard a lot of good things about them recently. Definitely seen that a lot of people are starting to come around to them. And you know, I think you're completely right. I think that people, you know, they see the flashy logo, they see the flashy colors, and they're like, "Oh, this has got to be good. It's got to be good." And then you see like the strike movement, which you know, the Hayes trainer, for example, like you said, it's not the flashiest looking shoe, but like we know that, but it performs really well. It does the job and it does it well. And these, you know, if these companies would, you know, follow that kind of design philosophy, and you know, I think that people, you know, you read reviews for shoes on the websites and stuff, on the actual websites for like Nike or something, and a lot of the reviews have like nothing to do with the shoe, or like it's got nothing to do with the performance of the shoe. Like, ah, oh, my shoe arrived late. Ugh, I have to give it a 1 star review. I would have given it a 5, and you're like, what? That has nothing to do. That doesn't help me at all if I want to get this or if it's good, you know. So it's very important to like. It always comes around to like honesty in the industry. So you know, you've done TF2. You know, you're doing. that fit friend and whatnot. Now, tell me about, how did you actually start working like as an athlete for 10,000? How did that come around?
Honestly, man, like I was just doing my thing as a trainer in New York City, working as an editor,
Hmm.
and one of my friends was like close friends with their CEO or whatever, so he just connected me. And
Hmm.
then from there, I was just kind of like in the loop of working with them here and there and doing some stuff, and like I'll do shoots for them here and there. It's kind of cool because like I'm one of the, like I feel like the few barbell focused athletes that they have on hand. Like they have
Hmm.
Taylor Atwood, which is like he's way more impressive than me by fucking all means. But when it comes to like being like a more barbell centric athlete, I'm one of the fewer guys on their team that goes about their training and fitness that way. So it's cool, and I think that's why they kind of like keep me around in that regard, because I do a lot of testing for their more strength focused gear, and
Hmm.
give them feedback on it, to the sense of like I've tested the deadlift sock before it rolled out. Well, I'm not sure if it's live. No, it's
It's
officially
live
live yet.
now. Yeah.
I could say that.
Yeah.
I could say that. But like the foundation pen and stuff like that, like I've tested
Hmm.
those, and yeah, it's interesting to see the growth of the brand and like some of the products that they're rolling out, but it's been cool giving me that insight into the apparel world, because now it like helps bring more depth to all the reviews I do for apparel, versus like, oh yeah, this is like a short for this. It's like, no, like I actually have a better idea of like the sourcing and stuff that goes into this model, even though I might not necessarily obviously be like doing the physical building of the product, but like
Right.
it's like cool having that insight into the apparel industry.
Absolutely. And that's interesting stuff, and people, they don't understand how, how much work goes into it. And so that's pretty cool to be like involved somewhat. So I saw recently your funny videos about this. Nobody knows about this company, but it starts with a C and it ends with an S. And you've been making some funny videos about them on your story every once in a while. And I was wondering, you know, where did that come from? Their clothing
Wait,
company.
oh my gosh. Dude, and you know what's funny though? It's like
Yeah.
I have so many friends who work with them, because like the fitness influencer world. So it's like
Yeah.
it's all in good fun. Like I
Oh
don't
yeah.
actually hate the company by any means,
Yeah.
but like I think every time I open my goddamn Instagram, I'm getting hit with a cuts ad, and it's always the same exact fucking person.
Yeah.
It's like this really, really very handsome, like in shape white man. It's like, I love my cuts for work. And it's like, just shut up. Just shut up. And it's like, and it's not even Cuts' fault, because it's just direct marketing. Like they're just
Yeah.
getting my fucking info from Google and all the other socials and just hitting me because I fit their demographic. So it's really not like it would be I would be ripping anybody who I'd be seeing every day. But at the
Yeah.
same time, it's just like, could you guys like diversify a little bit? Like, come on, man. Like, I'm a white man, and if I can tell that this is just good looking white men, like that's a problem. Like,
Yeah.
diversify a little bit. And also,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, I don't know. I love giving those guys shit, because it's always like my most handsome friends pushing it, and I'm just like, you son of a bitch. You guys are so handsome, it's ridiculous. Um, but yeah, I think it's like anything, dude. If you were hitting me with a supplement ad or whatever it might be every single day, and it was the same thing every single day, I would call that shit out, just because it's fun and I'm a troll.
Yeah, yeah, I thought it was hilarious. I was watching those and I was just like laughing my ass off because it's it literally I can hear it in my head. I can hear the ad because I get it all the time too. So I thought it was really funny. I get all those freaking ads. I'll be scrolling through people's stories and it's just all this direct marketing on Instagram. It's insane, like how much
Yeah.
it's involved. It's almost overwhelming, but
Yeah. Well,
that's
and
just the
it's
way.
like truthfully too, before we move on, admittedly, like I do have a few shirts that a friend gave me for them, and they're fine stuff. They don't really
Yeah,
fit me that well, because I don't think they're made for, like, I think buffer guys. And not saying I'm buff, but like it's even tight on my shoulders and chest. I'm like, I have friends who are way more muscular than me. There's no way this is fitting them.
yeah,
But like admittedly, like I have some of their stuff. I like it. I wear it. Do I think it's worth the money? No. But I'm also like a frugal son of a bitch who's fine wearing a $7 H&M shirt forever, because who cares?
yeah. No one's gonna see the label anyway. You know,
Exactly.
I saw a meme that I thought you would really like, and I think the audience would really like this. And I'm trying to, all right, here we go. and somebody posted a meme. I think it was Anthony Diaz, and he posted it. And is a pair of sneakers from Balenciaga that they're selling. That's what they look like.
Oh God.
And it says they're selling the shoes your uncle wears to walk the dog, but for 865 euros. And somebody commented, Balenciaga is a social experiment to see what level people will stoop to just show others they've got money.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
yeah,
not wrong, but it's like, yeah, it's a tough line to walk though too, dude, because it's like
yeah,
similarly, it's like we talk about like everybody having their own thing. So it's like
and
if
that's
you
the
want to do
thing.
that, sure, go for it. But like at the same time, like don't be offended if people make fun of you because like people make fun of me for doing like dude, I talk about deadlifts like every day. You know how annoying that shit is? Like I'm sure people are like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like nobody cares that you're lifting weights. So I totally get it. Like we all just bash on each other.
Oh,
So
for sure.
as dumb as I think that is, like the shoe and the price of it,
Yeah,
I get that like everybody has their own thing, you know. So it's like
yeah,
I try to be objective enough and self-aware enough, but also like
hmm,
poke fun, call my shots here and there, but not totally
absolutely,
be like like blind to everything. I don't know.
absolutely. Nah, and that's totally how it is. So I want to ask, because you're kind of established in the industry, and you have like a good following and whatnot. What are your thoughts on just this massive influx of fitness influencers all over Instagram and social media that don't have the same qualifications as somebody like you or Joel or whatnot? What are your
I
thoughts on that?
think it's overwhelming at times, and I think it can be tough, especially for beginners, to find reliable sources. And it's I go through like this internal battle every day, right? Because it's like you don't want to obviously like be a dick to somebody who's just starting out and building, but at the same
Absolutely.
time it's like the trickery and like the overly marketed shit that is basically like I call gilded pieces of shit when it comes to certain things. That's
Hmm.
where it's like it's tough for me to kind of get behind. Where it's like I get that you're beginning, but just because you put up a bunch of flashy shit and you have great genetics doesn't mean you really know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yep.
So I think as a whole, it's just a problem because when we think about the beginner, the intermediate, etc., who is just trying to look for something consistent and trying to find something to follow that's not going to injure them or put them into a place where they end up hating training or ending up with a bad relationship with food, etc., that's where it gets really difficult. And I think as the industry grows, we're getting better at weeding out some of that, but equally like social media just continues to blur the line. It's like
Hmm.
if you're only getting like your fitness content from TikTok, like you're doing it wrong, and you're
Yeah.
probably not doing the most optimal thing for your goals. So I try not to let it bother. It used to bother me all the time when I was like I take everything way too personally and be reactive and emotional. And I think as you grow in the industry, you just stop caring because truthfully,
Hmm.
like I would rather have less reach but impact like truly impact and work with like a smaller group of people who actually like are engaged versus like trying to have this huge reach and flashy marketing and stuff like that. But to answer your question, it doesn't bother me that much. What bothers me though is the I think false prophecy kind of mindsets that some of these people have, and then the kind
Hmm.
of cult followings they build that end up like building these emotional biases to this arbitrary crap.
Hmm.
That's where I think it gets really tough, and it's difficult, I think, for me to not be a little bit jaded about, um, just because it's like people, I think beginners especially don't understand that flashy marketing, good genetics, etc., does not equate to shit when it comes to knowledge. And it's like
Hmm.
they don't know if they're getting a good product, bad product, and the amount of people that I've seen who don't know shit and can't program for shit but charge out the ass, it's mind blowing. And it's like,
Hmm.
God, dude, like I can't fault them for wanting to make money and doing their thing and being good at it, but at the same time, like it internally just enrages me. So it's
Yeah.
like it's a yin and yang. I feel like inside of me at all times when I look at some of this crap.
Yeah. I mean, it's like logging into Instagram and you get all these accounts pushing NFTs on you or whatnot. And you're like, oh my, you're like, what the hell is this? What's going on? Like, it's the same thing, you
I'm
know?
curious though on your end when it comes to like seeing like coaches, influencers, et cetera, like how do you internally navigate that when it comes to finding sources, personalities, and voices that you can get behind, because I've accepted that I'm not a personality that vibes with everybody, and that's okay with me. It took me a while to realize that, but I think
Hmm.
that's like why I like doing that. I would rather not be everybody's taste. So I'm curious,
Yeah.
like in your mind, like when you're navigating through all these coaches, influencers, and everything, like how do you internally like go like, oh, like I can get behind this, like I get this, like I vibe with this person.
So, that's a good question. As people know, I've been in retail for a long time now, with like fitness brands and whatnot, athletically based brands. And, I think the old, was it adage of like, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. But low key, that's kind of like what it is, because like I try to connect with as many people as I can, and then I kind of just weed them out through that. So like, for example, a good friend of mine, Jennifer Rochon, people might know her as J-Ro on Instagram, and she's been a trainer with Under Armour for years. And she is like legit knows her shit, and she doesn't charge you out the ass, but she's very honest with you about what, you should expect if you do go with her. She just launched her own app. So, hey, check her out, guys. But you know, I connected with her be through Under Armour, and then we just like slowly began a friendship, and that's how I could understand that like she wasn't like just one of those, like you say, TikTok influencers. That's how I knew she was like legit and knew her shit and really took her time with people. Staying up until 4 a.m. writing plans specifically tailored to different people, not just pushing out a plan that it's like, oh, this is the 10-week booty builder for all of you, for all 100 of you, and it's like, are you really like sitting down, really thinking about people, really deciding what works best for certain people, what's more towards their strengths and weaknesses, rather than just pushing out a plan for like 100 to 500 people that are paying you to do it? And are you actually writing the plan? Like, do you have any kind of creative control over whatever your app or website or whatever is working with? That's something that I always ask people. That's something that I'm very interested in, is how much control do you have over your product? you know, because then I know if I should really buy into it or not. You know, so for me, it's like when I'm selling someone a product, it's very important for me to be honest from the get go. Have I tested this out? Have I worn it before? Have I used these shoes? And if I haven't, then I'm just going to be honest. I haven't. But the consensus that I've heard about it is this. But it's very important that you lead from the get go, that you let people know so they don't have these false expectations. It's like when you go on Instagram and you look at somebody's page, a trainer, and you see this physique, but you have to get out of that mindset, like that high school mindset of like, I want to be that. And it's like, you're not going to be that. You can only be what you're going to be, but you can have goals. You can get, like, my goal is to gain more weight. I'm not trying to be Jake Boly. I'm trying to be me, but I want to gain more weight, you know? So you have to sit down with yourself and give yourself realistic goals, and you have to find someone that, you have that connection with. And you got to make sure you have that like bond with your coach or whatnot, like you said, your personality is not for everybody. And I can easily say my personality is definitely not for everybody. But, I think that's why like I guided towards like someone like you, because like I think we get along. I think we have like very similar personalities. So for me, it's like, oh, like if I could see Jake being like my coach, for me, that's like, okay, he's a good dude then, because like that's just how the way I think about it. So there's plenty of people on social media that I just look at and I'm like, I could not hang out with that person. I could not be that person's client if I can't stand that person. And I think when you say, you said gilded, and I think that's totally true. So when I go on the explore page, I'll get flooded with that. And I can take 5 minutes to look through their page and look through their content. And I can easily tell as a consumer from that mindset, because, we have different mindsets. So I can see from my mindset, I can tell instantly, this is not, no. Like, and that's no disrespect to people, obviously, like, hey, make your money. I'm all about it. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of them just take advantage of people, or they prey on their insecurities. And so that's what I don't like about it, because I think it's too often that you have a responsibility as somebody in the industry to not. do that. And I think, especially during COVID and isolation and whatnot, people have not had outlets the same as they did before. I know when I was in college, I was isolated. I mean, the viewers know this, but I went to college in New York, and my family lives in Los Angeles, and my father lives in Ireland. So when I was in college, I was by myself. My girlfriend lives here, so I was alone. And so for me, my fitness totally just tanked for a while because I was alone. I didn't have anybody I trusted. I didn't have a coach I trusted, you know, and all I had was going to work and going to school. And so my fitness kind of fell apart. I lost a lot of weight. So like, how like people get the freshman 15? Well, I got like the freshman negative 15. I lost a ton of weight. So when I got back here, and my girlfriend, she works in the industry. She's a trainer and she's a general manager for a gym. And so she kind of helped me fix my whole life, helped me get a new plan in place, eating more frequently, eating healthier. So I gained a lot of weight back. But yeah, I also talk a lot. But, I think it's an interesting question. I think you just got to like take your time. I think you got to scroll through people's pages, not like stalk them, but you do have to like scroll through the content and really see how consistent they are. And are they pushing stuff that makes sense? Is it realistic? Not
Yeah.
everybody has time. It's all about time. You have time because in the sense that you have time for what you do because your life is geared towards that. Point that towards, somebody like my brother who's a chef. He doesn't have time for a lot of that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
is the person sitting down really making the plan geared towards that? Yeah.
I agree, man. And I think you hit the nail on the head too when we circle back to the previous question about like kind of the what would be the right word for it? Like the fugaziness of the fitness industry where it's like preying on the insecurities. And I think being a fucking human and setting real expectations. Like,
Yep.
yes, it's like I have this internal conundrum all the time because like I love sharing like physique updates and shit like that, but it's like it is misleading because it's like, yeah, just because you do my training plan doesn't mean you're going to look like myself. I will never look like you. I will never look like The Rock. I will never look like all these other people. And I think way too often it gets marketed as like, oh, if you do this, you're going to look just like me. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
Like we need to be way better at disclosing like there are drugs here. Training is your full life over there, influencer. So like somebody who is like your brother who is a chef, he might have 30 minutes in the morning tops to get in a workout. Like how can
Yeah.
you make that as effective as possible and also not mislead him and be like, oh yeah, if you just do this, you're gonna look like this in no time.
Abs in 30 minutes tops,
Yeah, dude, there's so much of that I can't stand. Like if we're gonna talk about pet peeves of the industry. But
Oh, sure. Yeah.
yeah, I think mitigating expectations is cool. And I think hearing you say that because I feel like your explanation was I feel like definitely something that was probably like a learning curve as well, similar to like how a coach like learns his way of approaching the industry and like building his systems and methods. Similarly,
Mhm.
like as a consumer who is interested in fitness, it's really interesting to hear you say like, oh, like it took me a while to like kind of figure out like exactly like how to synthesize all this information and create my like ideas or assumptions of like what this coach is, like what they represent, how they represent their information. So that's really cool hearing because I don't often hear that side of things from other folks who aren't my clients who are obviously biased towards me. So that's really cool,
Yeah.
man. I appreciate you
Yeah.
sharing that.
Yeah. And I'm not a client of Jake, just so everyone
No.
knows. Like, we're just friends, you know? And I reached out to Jake to do this because I thought he was cool. And so, and I think, it's very interesting, and not everybody's going to be like me, unfortunately. Not everybody's going to take their time to really, weed out people. And that sucks. I wish people could be. Uh, but, it's just too often that I'll read the comment sections under people and I'll just read all these people going like, oh, I got to do this. I need to look like you. Or, oh, like your abs, like, will my program give me your abs? And it's like, it's that's not how it works, guys. Like it's
Yeah.
not that simple. It's a lot of it's genetics, and a lot of it is your eating. Like I think a lot of things people misinterpret as eating. It's food. It's all about. It all really comes down to your food, and that's unfortunately that's a whole discussion about the industry, the food industry, prices of things, and that's a whole nother thing. But I think a lot of people, regular people like me, they'll forget that it all comes down to your diet. like, and that's your mental health as well, how much you're sleeping. Like me, I definitely don't get enough sleep. I'll be the first to say that. I don't think a lot of
Yeah.
us do, and so that's the thing, is like eating correctly, not eating junk food and not drinking too much soda and stuff like that. Like that all plays a role in your physique and the health of your actual body. And like, you want abs? Well, you're gonna have to make a lot of sacrifices if you want to have abs. And also, like, do you need abs? Like, is that the
Overrated.
end all be all for you?
Yeah.
Like, so that's the thing. Like, people also just understanding, like, do you really need to push yourself towards that? Is that going to really impact your life? Or would you rather just be healthy and fit? For me, I'd
Yeah.
rather be healthy and fit, you know? So, but that, that's a big thing. I think my pet peeve is abs. I think people, they think
Dude,
way too much about abs.
that's societal pressures at its finest. Like saying like, oh, this is what's beautiful. This is what's good. This is what's awesome. And it's like, I'm sorry, but I've helped clients, like, it's funny, like I've had multiple clients now throughout my training history work with me to get
Yeah.
leaner and have their abs show. Great. They
Yeah.
do it, and then like 2 or 3 months later, they're like, dude, this is fucking miserable. I'm like, yeah, like not everybody, like it's normal. Like not everybody's gonna be able to hold such a low body fat all the time and like function and be fucking feeling great on that. So you have like the societal pressures, and then you also have like what I would describe as like this iceberg of things that we like when we look on social, we see like this great body, we're like nice, but it's like there's so many things like you said that go into that people I think just take at face value, where it's like, oh, just this training plan, easy. It's like, no, this is 10 years of eating correctly, doing the same shit day in and out, trying to get enough sleep, not succeeding because we're in 2021, but trying, and then doing
Yeah.
all these other things that contribute to this like thing that you as a consumer or viewer for the first time are seeing for the first time. So there are so many layers to it, and I don't know. I'm curious to see when our society will get to a maturity in regard to social media, to where that will kind of be the default of recognizing, because we are definitely not there yet.
Oh, yeah, definitely not. And you honestly, like, you're so right when you say that. It's like society's not really there yet, and that's the sad thing. I think, unfortunately, in isolation, it kind of devolved. I think it was going on a trend, and then it just devolved because everybody was stuck at home. So everybody was on social media, and there's a lot of people, and this is no disrespect to these people, but there's a lot of people that just got into it because they're like, I got nothing else to do, might as well, and they took advantage of a lot of people, and they built up this cult following that isn't real, and they're pushing this entire vibe that's not real. And so, like, for the average guy like me, you know, that annoys the shit out of me because I'm just like, there's so many of them and they're all full of shit. And so, and it obviously their followings get so big. And that's like the thing, like on YouTube or TikTok, shit content gets a lot of views, gets a lot of follows. Creative stuff that people put a lot of work into doesn't, obviously. And that's just the way it is. We see that in
Yeah.
movies all the time. Shit movies get a lot of views and a lot of money. Transformers. And then, really, really, really good movies sometimes just don't get the recognition. The Last Duel. But I think you're totally right. And unfortunately, it overshadows, you know, really good creators, you know. So that's the thing that really annoys the shit out of me.
The
But that's
silver
just me.
lining, though, the silver lining
Yes.
is that cream always rises to the top, right? So it's like
Every
the
time.
the people who know their shit, and the coaches that I look to is like, and I consider mentors that I learn from too. It's like these are people that I know are going to be doing this shit forever. They're not in there for the quick
Hmm.
buck. They're not in there for
Consistent.
the quick. Yeah, they're consistent, and there will come a time and a place when you'll have these people who are following these like very quick coaches who whatever, they'll hit a wall, they'll be like, fuck, I don't know what to do, and then eventually they will find the right, I think, talking heads personalities. And that's something that I'm always like, it gives me reassurance, because we see it in so many other industries too, just being consistent and being like head down, hard work, this is what I know, this is what I'm about. That will always, I think, persevere long term, especially when it comes to just
Absolutely.
like personal satisfaction with training, life, whatever, coaching. um I don't know, I think there's a runway for some of these coaches, and I'm curious to see like what's going to end up happening in the next couple of years when they're like, oh, like this actually isn't that fun, because like there will come a time when I think Instagram is going to eventually not be the thing. And like, yeah, TikTok is the thing for now, but like once I think some of these coaches lose some of their like social clout and voices, and they're like, oh wow,
Hmm.
like nobody's actually listening to me anymore. Like they're not going to probably want to do it anymore, because like I don't know, man. Like I keep my client list small for a reason, and that's how
Hmm.
I prefer it. But it's like I don't rely on feeling powerful on social and stuff like that to enjoy working with the smaller group of people I do. And I just
Yeah.
do it because I fucking love it. So I don't know. I'm really curious to see who's gonna last and whatnot with the social dilemma, like fucking chaos we have right now, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, and it breaks my heart sometimes to see it. Some good friends of mine that have diverted their content completely to like, being consistent fitness content, consistent, like and then switching it completely to like TikTok, and there's like no more fitness stuff anymore. And I'm like, and it's like good for you. You're probably getting a lot of followings, my guy, but that app's going to crash sometime, and then you're going to have to shift completely, and you just shifted your whole life towards TikTok, and you can't put all your eggs in that basket. You just can't, because social media is evolving all the time. But you're completely right, and I think you're totally right with like being consistent. You know, I met a good friend of mine, Demario Davis. He plays for the Saints, and I met him almost 10 years ago when he was playing for the Jets. Nobody knew who he was, and he stayed consistent, consistent, consistent. Now look at him; he's a pro. He's like, I think he's an All Pro now with the Saints, and like, But that's like the point is like staying consistent, and eventually hard work will get recognized. You know, and so that's why I always tell like my girlfriend, for example, like, I guess I'm like this very much mindset of like you got to find your Zen moment. When things don't go your way, it's okay. Like it's not that big a deal. Like I guess sometimes my friends will be like, "This is a big deal, Dimitri. Like you should be freaking out right now." I'm like, like you can't control what you can't control. And if there's anything I've learned during COVID, it's that there's no use in losing your mind over something that's out of your control. It's just the way it is. How are you going to respond? When you get an unruly customer, like how are you going to fix the issue? Now, freaking out is not going to solve the problem. But if you just consistently just say, like, okay, this is what happened, but how can I fix it? That's the thing that people have to remember. And you only learn that when you mess up a lot, which I have definitely made a lot of mistakes. So, but that's how you have to learn it. And it's definitely about surrounding yourself with the right people. And I think you're totally right when you keep a small group of people as your clients list. That's very important, I think. I think if a coach has like a massive client list, that's a red flag for me, because there's no way that you have the time to oversee every single one of them with the amount of, you know, attention that they deserve, you know?
Yeah.
So, because if you're going to be taking people's money, you got to make it worth it. You know what I mean?
100%. I totally agree with you there, man. And it's like even my case, like I keep 15 clients capped max. And even like that's difficult for me to respond to. So that's why it's always like
Yeah.
this coach has like 80 to 100 clients. I'm like, hey, okay, cool.
Yeah.
You're definitely not giving them the attention that they deserve, and they don't realize it because they haven't had enough exposure to other coaches to understand that like they're probably getting shortchanged a bit. But equally, to each their own, man. Whatever.
Yeah.
I think what you said is a perfect lesson to end on, which is
Yep.
like just be consistent, keep your head down, and like if you love something, you just got to do it day in and day out and try not to burn out, because that's the name of the fucking game on social media right now. Is this
Oh,
like
yeah.
don't burn out, don't burn yourself
Don't
out,
look at
don't get
numbers,
caught up in
people.
yeah, don't get caught up in the reactive nature that social wants you to be in at all times, which I
Hmm.
constantly am like, I'm being reactive. I need to scale it back. I need to take a step away from my computer for a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, dude, thank you so much for having me on today.
Yeah, dude. I think this is what I really needed. I was on, sorry, folks. I've been on a hiatus for a bit. And honestly, it's just because, like, I don't keep a consistent upload schedule because I wait until I find someone worth interviewing. I got to wait until, because, like, you got to take time out of your day to make it happen. Like, we flopped all week trying to figure this out, both of us, and
Yeah.
things just didn't go our way. But, you know, it comes down to just finding the time and like, is it worth my time? And so like, obviously I considered this worth my time. I'm the one who reached out to you, but, and that's the thing, you know, people, when you're breaking into like podcasting and stuff like that, like it's going to be hard. You're going to have to reach out to people, and, you know, you're going to get a lot of no's. But when you do get that yes, it feels really freaking good, you know? So that's definitely very important. I just thank you for your time, you know, just taking out the time in your busy ass life for somebody like me. That I really do appreciate.
Dude, of course, man. I love having these conversations, and I think the fact that we were able to connect over social and just like build this relationship to where we can come onto a podcast and talk for an hour, I think out of all the mess of social that we've just talked about for like the last hour and all of the chaos in it, I think these are like the small silver lining moments that make it kind of like a really great tool. And I think that's like why I continue to like show up and use it, because it's like meeting folks like you, like building these relationships here and there, I think are really cool. Because like otherwise we would have never fucking met. So you
Exactly.
gotta give credit where credit's due to social there. But yeah, man, I
Mm,
appreciate it, and I'm super stoked to have been able to come on, man, and have a chat.
absolutely. What can we look forward to from you in the near future?
Honestly, so the biggest thing right now that I am prepping and training for is something called the 555 feet, which I am going to attempt in late March, early April. That is where I'm going to squat 500 pounds, run a sub 5 minute mile, and deadlift 500 pounds, all within 24 hours. Currently training for that right now. It's going to be awesome. This is first first time ever like announcing this or letting it be known, but as of right now, Men's Health is featuring it in their January magazine, which is like
What?
huge. So we just have to
Yeah.
make it past like the last okay from the editor in chief. But as of right now, that is supposed to be happening. I'm shooting with them actually next Tuesday out here in Denver. So that is super excited. But other than that, man, just consistent content. Like if you are interested in shoes or training, I'm just constantly trying to build out reviews, build out new videos on that front. Nothing is like crazy or else is happening outside of the 555. Just what I do for a living, man. But yeah, if you want to check any of those out, my YouTube channel is Jake Boly. That is my name, JakeBoly. This website that I run is That Fit Friend. And then if anybody is interested in coaching and whatnot, TF2 Strength is the platform for that. Just reach out to me personally, and I could give you a discount for being on or listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
So we could figure something out. But man,
Yeah,
yeah,
we can figure something
thanks.
out for sure. And I'll put all the links in the, you know, in the bio and whatnot. But this has been Jake Boly on Auto Chat. I really appreciate it, brother. You know, this has been a great talk. So thanks.
Sweet, man. Well, have a great rest of the day and have a great weekend.
You too, man. All right. And that's basically it. That was dope, dude. That was a good one.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, dude. I have a call in 1 minute, so I will have to hop off soon.
Yeah.
But that all being said, I am going to try to get to the post office early next week. I wasn't able to get around to it this week. Just
Hmm.
I I'm not even kidding you. I loathe going there so much, and I actually have a
Oh, I
couple of
feel that.
packages to send out, so I'm like bucketing them right now, and I'm like, son of a bitch, like I gotta go. So I will try to get there next week and have those shoes out to you, and I'll ping you obviously whenever that
Yeah.
happens.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. I sell like my old workout stuff on the side, and it's like every other day I'm going to the freaking post office and I'm like, oh fuck, do I have a box? Oh shit, do I have an envelope? Fuck. Like
Yeah.
I'm always looking for something. I'm always running out of fucking tape. But it is what it is. I'm trying to stop this fucking recording. But it's fine. Figure it out.
All right,
Alrighty.
man. Well, have a great rest of the weekend, dude. It's been a
You
pleasure.
too, bro. You too. Talk to you
See you,
later.
man.